good afternoon, and konbanwa wherever you are in the world. I am the idol to give you the wings to fly, Cyber Angel Rita Kamishiro at your service. How's everyone doing today? Hello, Sayred. Hello, Eaton Man, Bio, Lifa, Mercenary, Alex, Jiang, Advent, Meridan, Wesley, Joker, Rin, Sneaky Outlaw, that guy. Doing great. How am I? I am doing great. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I had another super productive day. I've been caught up on some of my work for a while, so I've been doing some of my side projects. And when I say side projects, I don't mean like little covers. I've also been working on those little covers and TikToks to post about like Genshin and Honkai. But I have like a little side project that has to do with like my personal like project management, like kind of like what I use to like keep things like organized in like my behind the scenes, just in my day to day. And it's so fun, and it has to do with like I'm gonna give you all the TLDR, but it has to do with like databases and views. And it's really exciting stuff. I don't know, I love nerding out about stuff like that, but the vision is coming together. The side project sounds suspicious. No, it's literally just project management. I don't know. I feel like I nerd out about the most random things, but maybe one day if you all want to hear me, chat away about project management. I have done a project management I guess presentation before, but I'd love to do another one. I've improved, I guess, my project management skills since I was last invited to a convention to talk about it. But I don't know, I love stuff like this. It is very exciting to me, but I'm still kind of in the process of building out the database and, creating my views. But I don't know, I think it's really exciting and it gives me a lot of energy. But welcome in today. We have today's just a talking, sort of chatting, discussion type stream. Nice and cozy. We do have a topic today, which I'll dive in a little bit in just a moment. But just so you all know, you can get comfy, get cozy, maybe get some snacks. We'll be chatting and hanging out. It's not going to be about project management. If you can tell from the title, it won't be about that, unfortunately. But we'll see. It's good to be excited by your work, exactly. Here for the first time, welcome in. Is it K3? Saw your Bleach covers. I'm glad you like them. That was a really fun and exciting project to work on. First time here, so I don't know about project. Oh my gosh, well, welcome in. Wow. Wow, what a first stream to come in on. It's gonna be a nice, cozy, chatting stream, and I guess I'll give you all a lot of background since it seems like there's a lot of new Archangels, which in that case, welcome in, get extra cozy. If you have any questions about me and the Archangels, absolutely ask away. We're more than happy to, welcome in new Archangels. But if you're not familiar with who I am and what I do, one of the things that I do, I guess as part of my channel and part of the things that I like to do, I don't know, just being on the internet, is I want to in some way give back in different ways. And one of the things I wanted to do, I guess, just as a streamer, I hesitate to call myself an influencer, but I guess I do have some sort of influence, which is kind of scary to think about, but I do try my best to be a positive influence. But one of my goals is to give back the sort of kindness and grace and patience that I've received from other people that has really helped me in my difficult times in my life. And that sort of mission and goal kind of manifested itself in becoming an ambassador for NAMI, which is not the One Piece character. I know, I had a couple of people the first time I say like, wait, what? NAMI? Like the character? No, this is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. You could check them out at NAMI.org. But I guess that sort of commitment to my goal and my mission kind of manifested itself in becoming a ambassador for NAMI. And I've had a lot of really awesome opportunities. I think, namely, I've had a lot of, I guess, help with resources in terms of learning more about, the fight for destigmatizing mental health, and just resources about mental health in general. But also, I've been invited to do appearances at NAMIcon, and I've had a lot of support in terms of the charity events that I've put on. And I've had a lot of fun putting on charity events. We recently did a charity concert, which Apollo was actually a part of. So I see Apollo in chat there. But we put on a concert to kind of share people's stories about their mental health journey, and I guess what music has meant to them on their mental health journey. It was an honor having you and all of the other VTuber friends that I had join. Gosh. So that's kind of where this is coming from. One thing I really am proud of is I love having a community that's very open-minded and has so many unique experiences and perspectives. And every once in a while, I like to just sit down and have these sort of like, I don't want to, heart to heart, is that what we're gonna call it? But I feel like I learn so much from you all, and I hope that in turn, that sharing my experiences and my thoughts kind of, I guess, kickstart a conversation that you have with yourself, maybe your friends, a therapist, your community, whatever the case. That's really just my intention with this sort of, conversations. Great time to know about NAMI. You're writing a paper on mental health for your assignments. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things that has helped me in my mental health journey is having people to talk to about it. Of course, a gentle reminder, I'm not a licensed professional in any way. I'm just, offering my friendly advice. I'm always a huge proponent on media literacy. Always be careful about the information you consume on the internet, of course. Make sure it's coming from reliable and recent sources. But of course, we're just here to share our experiences and our thoughts on things. So do with that information what you will. TNZ says we're all supportive of your goals and dreams, and that makes me really happy to hear, because I also, getting to see about, see and hear about everyone's happiness and success makes me happy too. I hope that in this journey we all take together on this channel, I hope we can learn and grow together and lift one another up, and just do fun and cool things, because yeah, why not do fun and cool things on the internet? But that's kind of where we are, today. Again, it's going to be very freestyle. There's not too much of a structure. I do have like my NAMIcon Express Talk script, and if you didn't get the chance to watch the Express Talk at NAMIcon, I thought it was available for like public and not just NAMIcon attendees, but I might have been wrong about that. I'll ask NAMIcon if I can share the Express Talk with you all. But I do have kind of like my outline from that video, so I can go over that a little bit. But I just saw somebody said when I first started watching your streams, I was hooked instantly. You honestly feel like a sister to me. That makes me feel happy. I get that a lot. I think a lot of people look up to me for a lot of things, and I really find that I feel very humbled to hear that, and I hope I can continue to, with the great responsibility of knowing that, a lot of people take very seriously the things that I say, and, put a lot of weight into the things that I say. I hope that I can continue to do good by you all. I don't know. I'm not usually the most eloquent person sometimes, so I hope that I can still do my best to convey things positively. But yeah, so I guess this is where everything starts. So I usually just start talking, and then I as I'm talking, I'm reading chat and seeing, what sorts of things you all have to say, and we do have a couple of, points in in the chat. I know today's conversation might get a little bit touchy. We might accidentally touch upon some sensitive topics. So, as always, I know the archangels. You all are very respectful and open-minded and very patient. So continue to do so. Respect your fellow community members, and of course, at any moment, if you need to step away or take a break, by all means, please do so. And there's more information in the description as well. I have the guts for that. You think so? Do you all think I have guts? Oh my gosh. But anyway, so I guess to kind of start things off, I'll share the topic, I guess the theme too, of my NAMIcon Express talk. Yeah, let's get real, Advent. Let's get real. What's that one Ruby song? Baby, let's get real. Show me how you feel. Da, 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 da. Anyway, there's one of your musical tangents for today. So, where is my thingamaboo? My topic was about having a healthy relationship with the internet. And the reason why we're gonna go even before. The reason why I decided to do having a healthy relationship with the internet as my topic is because at that moment in time when I was deciding what topic to do for NAMIcon, for some reason, I was seeing a lot of my friends online go through a lot of difficult things. And I'm not going to name any names. I don't want to be like, oh, this person was going through a tough time. But like on Twitter, I'd see people saying like, I thought that I could share things that I love on the internet, but I was just getting, why do you like this game? Or why do you like that show? It's so cringe, or like it's for kids or something. And it was sad to see, my friends go through all of that. And I think around the same time, I was posting a lot of like TikToks, and I was starting to see that as well. And it made me wonder, like, why? And what can we do about it? So that's the reason why I did my topic, which was called, I guess the title of it was Surfing the Web. I kind of did this like, because it's summer, so I wanted to do something cute. So I did like a summery water themed thing. And Stefan, thank you so much for celebrating 6 months as Idol Coach. Hope you have a wonderful day. Because it's such an ocean, a big wide ocean of topics, and I don't know. They call it Surfing the Web for a reason. So this is the reason why I decided as my theme, and I divided my Express Talk into 4 parts. I guess problem, solutions, impact, and the positives. But I wanted to kind of give them a fun little thingamaboop. This is the last slide, by the way. We're not getting any other slides. This is just kind of like to talk about what we're gonna talk about today. I am glad you all think it's cute. I put a lot of thought into it. And maybe one day I can share the full Express talk with you all. But for now, we'll kind of just go over the talk. Yeah, the internet just being the internet, right? Gosh. So it can be rough waters. And at the very beginning of my Express talk, I kind of talked about some of the problems that we face, being online, and some of the rough waters that we wade through to kind of set the stage, I guess. Am I a professional presenter? I am not, but that makes me really happy to hear. I don't think I'm like a professional. I think if anything, I'm a professional streamer. I get paid to do that. I've worked, well, not paid, but you know what I mean. I generate income from being a streamer, so I guess I would consider myself a professional streamer. But I don't like presentationing. Is that the word? Doing presentations is like a main thing that I like study and generate an income from. But I'm glad to think that people find my presentation skills very professional. And Paulo says TikTok commenters have a special capacity for meanness, and we'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that. I think definitely that is part of it for sure. I thought of something I wanted to mention as well, so let me jot that down for myself. I have a little notebook here just in case there's a topic I want to talk about later. Let's see. And then kind of like some solutions to overcome that, because at the end of the day, you can't fix the entire internet, right? There, as positive and as optimistic as I am, you know, in your day to day, there's only so much that you can do to keep yourself. You don't want to put in too much emotional energy, right? We all have our spoons, we all have our bandwidth, and you don't want to run yourself ragged trying to fix all the problems everywhere all the time. So solutions to kind of managing in the day-to-day, and then talking about our impact, because not only does the internet impact you, but you also have an impact on the internet. So how can we help create a more positive, I guess, environment on the internet? And then, of course, the positives is, you know, as scary as the internet can be, you know, it's an enjoyable place. So that's how I've divided the express talk, and I guess how we'll, you know, divide the conversation today. So now I'm going to slow it down a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit more extra attention on chat now that I've given my opening spiel. Wait, I have one more thing in my opening spiel. And then we can kind of slow down and then, you know, dissect each topic bit by bit. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is I know that sometimes, like, I guess, like, talks or, like, real chats like this sometimes feel a little, like, much. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, we're just chatting. We're having a heart-to-heart. I feel like sometimes people think, like, oh, just suck it up. Like, you know, like, you're thinking about it too much. Like, it's, you know, you don't need to do all that. But I think there's strength in vulnerability. I think there's strength in diving into, you know, how you feel and how you make other people feel. And I don't know. I feel like it's healthy every once in a while to kind of just dive in deep and think about, like, why does something make you feel upset, or why does something make you feel uncomfortable? But I don't know. I feel like there's strength in talking about stuff like that. So, again, all I ask is for open-mindedness and respect. And I can't, you know, I can't say that I haven't gotten that. I think I've had a very positive experience so far talking with the archangels about stuff like that. And that's it. So now we can dive into the thingamabob at hand. the thingamabob at hand. The first one is rough waters. And now, I'm sure we all have had a lot of difficult experiences on the internet. And one of the things that I've kind of, I guess, felt relief from is hearing that I'm not the only one, I guess, who feels, I guess, impacted. Impacted by these sorts of negative things on the internet. Anime Lover says I've had more rough waters than the 7 seas combined. Oh my gosh. So, if she said the thing, the Genshin Impact thing, I don't know, I have a weird word association with the word impact. And then whenever I say impact, I think of Genshin Impact, but Genshin Impact doesn't have anything to do with that. That's just me being silly. But what was I gonna say? But I feel like one of the things that has helped me in, I guess, is processing the word that I'm looking for. Think about the script, I guess, and the topic at hand is hearing from other people, like, oh, you're not crazy. Like, I've also felt that way. I've also experienced that. And it's not that I'm like, oh, I'm so happy other people are suffering. It's more like, well, that's not what I mean at all. It's more like, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks about it a certain way. You know what I mean? Yeah? Am I crazy? Solidarity is everything, I agree. But I think definitely solidarity, like, in a productive sense. Does that make... And I'll kind of elaborate in that. Yeah, exactly. Glad that there's people that you can relate to. Exactly. And... where was I going with this? I had a topic. I say it's so hard to, like, keep up with, like, you know, different messages and stringing them all together, because I feel like everyone has such, you know, interesting and very exciting things, and I've like tried to make sure that I like sort everything in and like stay within the scope. You know what I mean? But I think productive solidarity is the word or the phrase I wanted to kind of touch upon, because I feel like sometimes people will gather together not to sort of like create some sort of positive impact, like, oh, I'm upset about this injustice, or this person who was being a bully, or this person who's saying hateful things, and we want to improve that. I feel like that's like a productive sort of sense of solidarity. But I feel like then there's this sort of solidarity where I'm just here to like stir up trouble, right? And make people angry and incite, I don't know, like some sort of negative backlash. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? A bit curious on the idea of productive solidarity. That's putting it lightly. What do you mean? I do try to put it lightly. You know what I mean? Do I ever get the urge to do a little trolling? What do you mean by that? Even a tiny bit? I don't know. What do you mean by that? Some people like to watch the fire burn. Gosh. You just read my life script. Wait, what do you mean? Like, the topic of productive solidarity? Like trolling? Yeah, I guess so. Like, do I like setting dumpster fires? I don't know. I feel like, just truth be told, I'm not a very confrontational person, so I'm not really a dumpster fire starter. But, and I'm not gonna get into the psychology of why people get, pleasure from, hurting other people. I don't have, I guess, a knowledge base on that, but I just wanted to clarify what I meant by productive solidarity. But I feel like, where was I going with this? And we were talking about problems. Anyway, other things that you've experienced on the internet that is considered an unhealthy experience. I guess one thing for me is doom scrolling. I'm sure this is something you all can relate to, but one of the, I guess, rough waters that I run into when I use the internet is doom scrolling. I used to doom scroll a lot. And now I don't anymore. I thankfully have learned how to stop doom scrolling. And I'll just leave it at that. I want to see if other people kind of also have that issue. It's definitely important to seek solidarity in a mindful way. A negative side of it can be when people suffer competitively. That's true. Like Pain Olympics, like when people are like, oh, well, I'm suffering more than you, so like my issues are more valid than yours. Is that what you mean? That's also very unproductive. Doom scrolling is the worst, and doom scrolling I feel like comes in various flavors. One of them being flavors of doom scrolling. Have you ever thought of it like that? I think the first one is scrolling through and seeing and like reading about all the bad things that's happening in the world. And I think it's important to stay informed on topics that are not only just relevant to your life, but because I think a lot of people get caught up in, because there's a lot of things to care about, right? And you're only just one person. I think a lot of the times people hark on people for being like, oh, you care about this problem. Why don't you care about this one? And why don't you care about that one? You are just one person, and you only have so much bandwidth for care. And that doesn't make you a bad person. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I wish I could put in more care and effort into all these things I care about. But there's only so many things that a human can worry about. That's the first flavor of doom scrolling, right? Is wanting to, I'm sure it comes from a place of wanting to stay informed and have some sort of feeling of control over so many things that happen in your life. The other form of doom scrolling is feeling like you're being left behind. So it's kind of like a positive, negative doom scrolling. You're scrolling through and you're kind of comparing yourself to other people. Like, oh, why haven't I, done this yet? Or how come I haven't gotten promoted yet? Or how come I'm not, getting these numbers? Or how come I'm not, going on a vacation to my dream destination? I think those are the two flavors of doom scrolling that at least I experience and my friends experience the most. Mm-hmm. Have I ever had FOMO? Yeah, of course I have. like maybe I take the day off because it's like, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And I happened to be the other day, I made a bunch of plans to go hang out with a bunch of different people in one day. And then halfway through, or kind of towards the end, I was like, oh gosh, I'm tired. I need to go to sleep. I need to take a nap. Otherwise, I could just shut down right now. But I took a nap, much needed nap. I woke up and then I immediately was like, oh man, I wish I went and hung out with my friends. So yeah, I do experience FOMO. Gosh. Let's see. I think definitely there is someone just touching upon the suffering Olympics one. I think there's definitely an understanding. You should definitely understand the magnitude of various, I guess, we'll go with injury, I guess. So obviously, if you got a cut in your finger and somebody else is profusely bleeding, someone's gonna need the ER more, right? But I think there's definitely a tact that you can have when, I guess, you're comparing. I don't know. I feel like it really is a case-by-case thing. But in terms of, doom scrolling, right? Going back to the topic of doom scrolling. And there's a bunch of, big world events that need your attention. I think as a human, you only have so much space in your brain to, put in a lot of energy into these different things. And I think it would be unproductive to just be like, oh, well, this is a bigger problem than that. Or, do you know what I mean? I think it's a very, case-by-case thing. Gosh. Let's see. I was just going back in the chat. Let's see. Petzo says, I like to say it's not the worst thing happening in the world, but it's the worst thing happening in your world. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, factors that, can influence how we're getting a little bit off topic. But so I'm actually gonna cut that off and I'm gonna reel it back. Good point. But on the topic of, we're gonna wrap up the topic of doom scrolling before I kind of walk out of scope a little bit. But that was one of the problems, I guess, that I wanted to talk about that pops up. But you shouldn't be, ashamed that you feel overwhelmed. I think, that comes from a place of of caring, right? But we're going to talk in just a moment about how you can manage that. We talked about doom scroll. We talked a little bit about hate, right? On social media. We talked a little bit about that right before we talked about doom scrolling and kind of unraveled that one. But I don't know, I feel like, because we were talking about solidarity in experiencing hate on the internet, right? But I'm sure we've all encountered it before, right? I could share a personal experience. Let's say I'll post a song or like a cover or something. There'd be comments like, you're not doing it properly. If you're not gonna do it properly, don't do it at all. Or so-and-so did it better. And I've been on the internet for a long time, so I have my ways of dealing with stuff like that. But for those who get messages like that and don't know how to deal with them, I guess, just kind of sharing my experiences. And of course, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I feel like sometimes it could even get more scary. That's already very scary, but people might start attacking you for things like your race or your gender or your sexual orientation, and or like if you make like a mistake or something, and there isn't that sort of room, I guess, or empathy to learn and be better and correct your mistakes. And I think we kind of, I think at the beginning of my Express talk, that was just one of the things I touched upon. And we're gonna go into the solution section and talk about how, I guess, you could deal with them. And I didn't really talk too much about like why this sort of thing happens. Again, I'm not like a licensed psychiatrist, or I don't really understand too heavily the psychology of why people do hateful things on the internet. But I think my Express talk talks a little bit about that. Yeah. There's a lot of people who don't know how to deal with it. That's also kind of why I made this Express talk, to kind of just talk about my personal experiences and how I have dealt with it and made it understandable in my head. Does that make sense? You mentioned comparing to others. Is that worse for content creators than most people? I think so, because I think with being a content creator, people expect a certain level of, I don't know, quality, which does make sense. But it's like I think there's less room for, at least there's an expectation, like an unspoken expectation, that creators have to meet a certain level. And because there's other people doing the same thing that you are, like on a professional level, you often get compared to other creators, which, random tangent, and then we'll go back onto how to deal with hate and doom scrolling. This might just be a me thing, but the backhanded compliments where it's like, oh, I think you did it better than so-and-so. Which it's like, I appreciate the thought, because that means you really enjoyed my performance and you preferred it. And everyone has their own preferences, right? You can't deny that, but I think there's a level of tact in not outrightly saying oh, I think you did it better than so-and-so. Because in my head, I think there's better ways to express that you prefer someone else's, that you prefer that person's way of artistry, right? Because, everyone has their own cup of tea. Everyone has their favorite, I guess, flavors of things, genres, things like that. But it is a little bit painful when it's like, oh, you did something so much better than this other person. Because then I think oh, well, that other person was my inspiration in doing this, or that other person is my friend. And so, I don't know, just something to be careful about. Because from, what I understand, that comes from a place of love and care. Right? Because you're trying to express your admiration for the person, which is very appreciated. Closed tangent. Now we're gonna go back to... Gosh, anyway, back to... if you're new here, tangents are very common. I get very distracted by... like I mentioned, I'm such a bad presenter. I'm not the most eloquent person, and my brain kind of goes in many different ways. But wrapping it back up, how do we deal with these sorts of, I guess, negative experiences? Because surely the internet isn't just all bad things. It can't be, because I have so much fun hanging out with the Archangels, so surely, it can't all be that bad. Is it okay? Yesterday we were talking about why I struggle with some words in English. Is it orator or orator? Or orator? Because I know oratory is a word. But how do you pronounce? Is it orator or orator? Gosh. Let's see. I'm sorry. If I ever go quiet, it's because I'm reading. I'm trying to get caught up on the chat. Ooh, yeah, exactly. You don't have to praise something by putting something else down. I agree. The former, orator. It's closer to the first one. It has a similar sound to orbiter. Oh, orator. Like that? Orator? Oh, Cyber says, ora, ora, ora. There you go. Listening to this while writing my paper, really enjoying the content. Off topic, but hope to see more Bleach covers. I'm actually, okay, quick tangent. I really want to cover one of the newer opening songs. Okay, close tangent. Oh my gosh. So it is order. Okay. Have a bad day. Watching real life is improved because of Rakita's takey. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, water check. So the first little tip, the first little trick, the first little doodad I'm going to talk about today is a lovely tool I like to call the block button. and I know... Oh, right. Blocked and reported. I know it may seem a little intimidating. Maybe sometimes even cruel to use it. Like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to just, like, cut somebody out. But you have to think about it as, like, an implement to your safety. Right? And I think definitely one of the first things people think of when, you know, I talk about things like, you should create a space where you don't feel harassed. I think the first thing people think about is you're creating, like, oh, you're creating an echo chamber because you only want to be surrounded by people who will agree to everything that you say. Like, oh, you're only allowing opinions that mirror your own, or you only want to be surrounded by people who will always say yes. And sure, there may be an opportunity for people to abuse a block, like the block button, and create that sort of, you know, echo chamber is the verbiage that I used. But you have to trust that you know the diff, and you know it's important to kind of have that sort of like critical lens on your own behavior. That's why it's important to kind of like step back, like, why am I doing something? I do that, like, why am I doing this thing? Like, where is this coming from? But trust that you know the difference between helpful and hateful criticism. And remember that you can get criticism from people in your life who know who you are, like who actually know like the real you, who know to like an actual extent like what it is that you're going through, and who have your best interests at heart. So it's a difficult conversation to have, right? Because sometimes you have people who are unaware that they are creating that sort of, you know, unproductive space. But for the most part, right, like I think we can delineate between these are people in my life who I trust can give me positive or constructive criticism, like who I know, like if I'm doing something bad, I can trust them to tell me that I'm doing so, as opposed to bad faith actors on the line, on the internet, who just want to, you know, harass you for fun. Oh my gosh, I don't know. We mentioned I don't you know, I don't know what people get from that, but maybe that'll be another conversation for another day. But someone says, without the block button on PlayStation, I wouldn't be able to play Overwatch 2. See, protect your peace. Well, I don't know how much peace you get. I've a lot of my friends who play Overwatch get very angry. I think games like that, like League of Legends or like Overwatch, I find that it fails to protect my friends' peace. Ludo, playing League. But, you know, we all want to create like a space where we don't feel harassed. But as I kind of, you know, brought up before, you're not weak for using a block button. It's important to maintain your personal safety. Mm-hmm. You could also just privatize your account as much as you can. You could, yeah, definitely. Kind of just keep it a friends and family thing and only allow in people who, you know who you are. And I think with people spending more time on the internet and sharing more online, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I think I love the internet. I don't know what I would do without it. Uh-oh. Is that an addiction? No, it's not. I promise. I love touching grass. I promise. But in this, I guess, I don't want to say trend, it's been happening for years, but with people spending more time and sharing more online, I think we've forgotten, like there's this fundamental thing I feel where it's people are not entitled to your time. You've probably heard this before, but like back in the day, if you send someone like an envelope, you'd have to wait for the response. Like people forget that people don't necessarily have to be at your every beck and call. Of course, if you have like an agreement like at your workplace where it's like, hey, when it comes to emails like this, I respect a response at 24 hours. If there's like that sort of agreement where like, oh yeah, you know, if I don't know, if your friend's like, hey, if I don't hear from you for like a week, like I you know, that's different, right? But I think when it comes to just using the internet in general and having not just an audience, but like a community, I think we tend to forget that others aren't entitled to your time. First of all, welcome backstage as Idol Manager Cypher, and Red Birdie, welcome backstage as Idol Coach, and thank you for the 5 gifted as well. I hope you all have lots of fun. I think next week I have some member content starting to go out, so look forward to that, and I hope you all have lots of fun. And for those who are celebrating their membership anniversaries, I hope you get to continue to have fun. Petzo says blocking abusive communication is like taking out the trash. No one reasonable is going to ask why you weren't strong enough to brave and the smell and mess. There's no reason to bear it. That is such a good point, Petzo. That's great imagery. I really appreciate that. Apollo says humans consume and send so much more information than we did in the past. It can get very overwhelming. Exactly. Yeah. Gosh. Have you had the opposite where you have more time offline and you just feel left out of the trends and stuff? Yes, I absolutely have, Goatman. Gosh. And thanks for stopping by for those who are stepping out. I think a couple of people. And remember, as I mentioned before in the description, you know, so far everyone's been very respectful and open-minded, and I appreciate that. And if at any point it gets a little overwhelming, please take a break and step away if needed. Friendly reminder. What I was saying before, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, because I've stopped and like tangented, so I'm gonna come back and try to finish my sentence, because I keep tangenting myself. With people spending more time and sharing more online, I think we tend to forget that others aren't entitled to your time, your responses, your energy, and especially your personal information. You do not need to be like giving that to other people. I think a couple of other archangels in chat have mirrored this already, but with the internet being such a common and central part of our lives, we forget that we are entitled to our own privacy. Even as a public figure, I think people tend, especially with public figures, I think people tend to forget that, you know, influencers, public figures are entitled to their own privacy. Right. For example, like, and I understand where sometimes it can come from, like, oh, like, let's say, I'm going to take a break for a week. I can understand the concern from there, and because that concern comes from a place of love, right? It's like, oh, is Rita okay? Like, is she sick? Like, I just want to make sure she's okay, and that's fine, right? We're all entitled to our very human emotions, like worry, but, you know, having to give, like, so for example, if I was having to go on a break because I was very, very sick or very, very ill, you know, I'm entitled to that privacy of my health status, right? Because that's very private information, and, you know, even though it comes from a place of care, right? Like, I want to know what's happening because I care about this person. You know, they're, you know, getting angry at people for being like, why aren't you telling us all the details? Like, I want to know why that gets out of hand, right? And hello, Ward, welcome in. We're talking about, oh, sorry. I should probably put like a little topic header. We're talking about having a healthy relationship with the internet. So at any point, actually, Shiny, I'm sorry if this is too much to ask. If we could get maybe like a message where it's like, if you're just popping in, like if you have any questions about what the topic at hand is specifically, like you can ask something like that. I'll try to remember to kind of recap every once in a while. And then like maybe in the message put like, we'll try to recap every once in a while for folks who just popped in. So you can either ask questions or you can kind of wait for a little recap. Thank you. I appreciate you. Can we get an 07 for Shiny, our wonderful mod? Octoceve, welcome backstage again as IO coach for your 18 months. Social media and its consequences has been a disaster for the human race. I'm not going to deny that there have been some social media disasters, but I think, and we'll get to it at the very end, right? The positives of the internet and social media, but it's not perfect, that's for sure. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. I don't know. Oh my gosh, was it yesterday that okay, ENFP moment, but I was just like sitting doing work and I was like, I'm just so happy to be surrounded by so many like awesome people. Like my fellow Prism agents, like my fellow like VTubers outside of Prism, like my community, everyone is so nice and unique, and they have their own experiences, and everyone's so funny and wise, and I'm just excited and happy that I get to be a part of it. I think I'm very lucky that I get to be in the middle of a big happy community. So I don't know, that's just something I thought I'd share. Gosh. Red Birdie says, I just ignore social media and just watch videos at work like this. Hey, if that's how you protect your peace, that's how you protect your peace. I like that. Do I speak English too? I speak English mainly. I speak a little bit of Japanese. I think I understand Japanese more than I speak it. And same thing with like Cebuano. We talked about that during Nova Stream the other day. I'm happy for you this time, not sarcastic. Oh my gosh, and thank you, Shiny. I'm gonna go ahead and pin that. Woohoo! No regrets joining this community. I'm happy to hear that, Kaya. I'm happy to hear that. If Rita happy, me happy. If Archangel happy, then me happy. I'm happy that you're happy, that I'm happy, that you're happy. That I'm happy, that you're happy. That I'm happy. Oh gosh, but you know, quick little, I guess, reiteration of what I mentioned about the block button, right? So, you're not weak for using it. You know, if you ever find yourself being inundated by, I don't know, hateful comments, abusive behavior, or even like difficult memories. If, like, what I mean by that is if, like, I don't know, certain places or words or people or phrases you find particularly triggering, like, the block button is there. It's to help you create boundaries. And like I mentioned before, trust that you know the difference between helpful and hateful criticism, that you can create, that you're not creating an echo chamber of just yes men, but that you're creating an environment of people who have your best interests at heart, who can tell you and call you out when you do something bad. And congratulate you, right? And celebrate you if you do something good. So that's where we were on that, right? And we talked a little bit about why do people on the internet do mean stuff? Why people be mean? Because I feel like a lot of the times when I share it to people, like, you need to create your boundaries. You need to set your boundaries. I've gotten a lot of people being like, why do I even have to do that in the first place? Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, is there something about me that makes people want to not like me? But I guess if it's any sort of consolation, people might just be seeking attention or power. And sometimes people seek attention in negative ways, right? Maybe they're going through a really bad day and they're just lashing out at anyone or anything, and or maybe they're just projecting their own insecurities on other people. And while that doesn't excuse their behavior, it kind of helps you realize that the hate that you're getting doesn't necessarily reflect you. But yeah, like Bio said, PTSD and things of the like can be very difficult. And having things that, because I think a lot of the times, people are like, oh, you feel triggered by something, just having things that, because I think a lot of people hear the word trigger and they think, oh, you're just you're a softie, aren't you? You just need to suck it up. No, it's very real, very, like, very valid things to experience and to have. And triggers can be a variety of things, right? And it's basically, let me search this one up. I don't wanna, cause, I mean, let me see. I'm trying to think of something that I'm comfortable in, to give an example, that I'd be comfortable in sharing. A trigger. This one's not so prominent anymore, but when I was growing up, a big trigger for me was topics having to do with family. And I think, and the reason why is, I won't go into the reasons there, but like in school, like if it was like a, hey, it's time to like, it's like a, bring your parent to school day, and everyone was super excited to like bring their parents, and I was like, oh gosh, like what do I do? And it kind of triggered, that's the word, right? The key word, the operative word. And I kind of felt this sort of intense anxiety. Like, oh gosh, like what do I do? Like everyone's prepared, everyone's ready, like they're so excited and I'm not. Like what do I do? And it kind of put me into this like fight or flight mode. And sometimes it's a little bit more intense, sometimes it's not. But that's an example, if that helps. Yeah? What do you think? Is that here? Let me search up a example from a reputable source. That's important. Should we do Merriam-Webster? To cause an intense and usually negative emotional reaction in someone is what a trigger is. So, yeah, I think definitely. I'm trying to figure out why were we talking about triggers? Basically, it's like a word or phrase, memory. It could be a visual, even. It could be a, like, what else? I'm trying to think. It could be a song. It could be people. Like it basically kind of triggers, again, the word, a very negative emotional reaction. And it may be because it reminds you of a certain time. It reminds you of a certain feeling, right? Sounds like something where anyone who hasn't been in your shoes would understand how you feel. Exactly. I think a lot of the times people can downplay people's experiences and other people's like triggers because they haven't experienced it themselves. And I think that's a very common thing. I think ignorance breeds a lot of negativity, and because I think when people are like confused about things, or there's things that they don't understand, I think a common response to that is to be hateful. Does that make sense? Yeah. You, a gun and chemistry nerd, that's one kind of trigger, I guess. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Okay, let me make sure I finalized my topic, and then we can move on. So we talked about block buttons, we talked about... Did I talk about that? Okay, we talked about block button, we talked about triggers, and why people might be hating. I think that's where we were, right? I think somebody mentioned it up above. Let me look. And Kimichu, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. Sorry, you caught me in the middle of a not a tirade. I don't think tirade is the word that I'm looking for. Yeah, because we were talking about why people do, like, hateful things. And Envy was like, oh, the most common reason is because, quote unquote, it's fun, right? Maybe they're bored, or they're seeking attention or power. And again, while it doesn't excuse their behavior, it's, I guess for me, it can be reassuring, and it helps you realize that it's like, it's not about you, right? The hate isn't happening because it's you, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that. So that's the end of that topic. Wasn't that a big one? I was gonna say fun, but I don't know if fun is the word that I'm looking for. Exactly, it's reassuring to know why. And to know that it's not like a you thing, right? Mm-hmm. A lot more people than ever before seem to suffer from anxiety. I don't know if it's a product. I don't know if it's like because it's more commonly talked about and it's like less stigmatized and there's just the same amount of people being anxious, but now more people are talking about it, or if it's a product of because we're so interconnected, it's so much easier to be. Because what do they say? Ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know about something that's happening, you can't feel bad or scared by it. So I don't know. That's a whole other topic I could go into, but great point. Something to think about. Store away for later, for me to think about. Gosh. So next tip I have, right? So we talked about creating your boundaries, creating your space, right? And managing your space. Another thing you should do is be mindful of your internet habits, right? And this is a big one because it's gonna dive a little bit into me trying not to use my phone first thing when I wake up in the morning, and also last thing I do when I go to bed. So it's gonna kind of bleed into that. But another thing you should do is be mindful of your internet habits. Think about how you consume. So everyone pause, take a moment. How do you consume social media? Do you find yourself anxious to check your social media first thing in the morning? Do you have a morning routine? Do you get up? Do you eat breakfast first? Do you brush your teeth first before you check your phone? Think about that. Do you find yourself anxious to check your socials? Maybe even your work socials. I don't know. Is your work or your studies suffering at all because you keep checking oh my gosh, how many likes do I have? Or how many responses do I have? Or what are people saying about that? Gauge how you're reacting to the internet, social media. Are the issues you involve yourself in, are they relevant to your day-to-day life? And that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because it's important to be also involved in maybe things that are involved in your day-to-day life, but bigger, important issues. So I guess issues that are relevant to your day-to-day life and or are impactful to your community or outside of the community, right? Are you arguing about oh, this character is so much better than that character? Are you getting into a very unproductive conversation? Well, of course, it's fun to have fun little conversation debates about I think this. Remember, because don't people make those videos where it's who would win in a fight, Goku or Sailor Moon? But those can be fun. But are you getting up in arms? Are you finding yourself? Is your day-to-day life and how you feel in your day-to-day life being impacted by that? Or are the issues you're involved in relevant to your life or the real world, or are they just there to make you upset? Right? You don't want to just randomly I don't know. I feel you shouldn't. It shouldn't just make you angry. You know what I mean? It shouldn't just. That's the key word. Just make you angry, right? Because there are things that, for example, I don't like pollution. Pollution makes me sad. I think our Earth should be happy. So, while it doesn't necessarily affect my day-to-day life aside from I try to turn off the power when I can, or I'll recycle and stuff like that. But that's something I can be upset about and then do something about, right? That I have an outlet for it. But there are things that can make you upset just for the sake of making you upset, and there's not really any sort of productive thing that you could do about it, right? Yeah. I'm going back and reading what people are saying. I have friends on multiple platforms. So I gotta check and invest time into friendships. That's very important. Yeah. Very interesting topic today. Oh yeah, absolutely. I check new artworks, so maybe a notification I missed from a VTuber. Otherwise, my level of interaction is very minimal. There you go. You have your own set boundary. And welcome in, Neon. Oh my gosh. I hope you're okay. We are currently talking about being mindful of your reaction to the internet. How often are you checking, are you checking your socials out of anxiety? It's different if oh yeah, I part of my morning routine is to check my phone and talk to check messages for friends, maybe, I don't know, who have a different sleep schedule than I do, or maybe friends who are on a different side of the world, and that's why this is the only time I can talk to them. That's a little bit different than waking up immediately being like, oh my gosh, am I getting hate comments on TikTok? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like creating an unnecessary like physical, emotional reaction in your day-to-day life. You know, I bring it up in a funny way, but you know, it's like you kind of have to understand the balance, I guess. So kind of like understand like how often do I check my phone, and like when do I check my phone? Why do I check my phone? I was gonna say, how do I check my phone? Exactly, like how do you feel when you're hopping on to social media? Not my phone. My Switch wants me to do Ring Fit Adventure, so I apologize if you hear the buzzing. Yeah, just think about how you feel when you use social media. Like, what drives you to be on it, right? Like, what are your reasons? We talked to somebody in chat earlier, says, like, oh, I check because I want to check in on my friends. That's a great reason to want to check, right? I want to stay connected, or I want to be inspired by... Somebody said they love looking at VTuber artworks. That's awesome. Like, I want to get inspired. I want to see beautiful things. That's awesome. But if being on social media is constantly making you angry or sad, or if you find yourself on it for negative or harmful reasons, like seeking an unhealthy amount of external validation, because that's different from being like, I want to get a progress check on how I'm doing. I want to see how people, like, I want to see if there's anything I can improve upon, right? Like, hey, am I doing this correctly? That's different, right? But there's an unhealthy way to seek external validation, right? So, or maybe you want to hop on the internet because you want to cause harm to others, right? So that at that point, you do need to seriously reevaluate your relationship with the internet, whether you can do that by yourself or with a trusted professional, a trusted friend, a trusted adult, whatever the case. There needs to be a serious evaluation, right? As I'm reading messages. So if I go silent, that's why. If I don't check my phone, my mother gets angry. That's fair. I mean, again, if we have an established expectation with an individual, like whether it's like a family member or a workplace, like that's different, right? It's like, oh, that's a whole separate conversation. If you feel like, you know, your work-life balance is off, then that's a different, you know, conversation. But if, you know, you have an agreement with your manager from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., if I message you, I want a response within 1 hour. That's different, right? So if that's something you both agreed upon. Yeah. I see a lot of people who are like, oh, I haven't used, I barely ever use social media. I haven't used conventional social media. And that's certainly one way to have, I guess, a balance. But no, I you know, there's everyone's sense of balance is different, right? And there's nothing bad with being on the internet, and there's nothing bad with being not on the internet. It's really up to you. It's an individual experience. It depends on how busy I am if I'm using social media more often than not. That's true. Like if I'm just taking a day and like I don't feel like I don't have like the energy to do any like projects, I'll just watch YouTube, check in on my friends. And again, it's really like, why are you doing it? Are you spending 3 hours doom scrolling and making yourself feel anxious? Or are you spending 3 hours scrolling because you want to keep up with like the news, or you want to keep up with your friends? Like again, it's why you do it and how it makes you feel. I remember growing up and learning about the term cyberbullying, and now that term feels like a relic and just the grim common reality of the web. I feel like... So, okay. Real talk, in the real talk. Bullying, I feel like, has never gone away. It was kind of a sad statement, but like, there has always been people being mean and hateful on the internet. Right? That's always been a thing. Is it just me, or does it feel like all of a sudden it's quote-unquote cool again? Is that me? Like, we're getting into the real talk. I feel like there's been a trend lately of people finding things they don't understand, or niche things they don't understand, and they're like, oh, I don't find excitement or pleasure from this thing I don't understand. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make fun of it, or spread misinformation, or be hateful. Definitely. Yeah, I was like, what happened? Like, what? Bullying's not cool. It should never be cool. But I feel like lately, it's really weird. And I'm gonna go a little historian here for a second. I feel like I've never thought it was cool. I don't think bullying is cool, but I say that because it feels like a trend almost on the internet. That to find something that you don't fully understand and make fun of it just because everyone else is. Right? And and I could dive more, if you want me to dive more into that, I totally could. But I just wanted to kind of, I thought that was very odd. People will, oh my gosh, Shiny, exactly. Shiny says, people will say things like, quote unquote, this is why we need bullying. And it just makes me say, is it though? Right? It's like, gosh. Yeah, it's I think a lot of it stems from ignorance. Like, and I don't necessarily like mean that in a negative way, but it's like there's just some things you don't understand. There's just some things you've never experienced before. But Envy says some attack people out of solidarity. And it's that kind of harking back to what we were talking about before. Is it productive solidarity, or is it solidarity just to incite more of that negative backlash, right? And I feel like there's this trend, and I think the term that is used most is like bandwagoning. I think people think, oh, a lot of people are talking about it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hop on to it too. Even though I don't know anything about this topic. You know what I mean? Yeah, and definitely, QB, the power of anonymity does give that feeling of power without consequences. Yeah. But I don't know why I brought that up. Let me go back. I think we were talking about reevaluating relationships on the internet, like your relationship with the internet, but I think it like kind of tangented off into a conversation about, was it anxiety or bullying? We were talking about like understanding why you use the internet, like what drives you to be online, and what drives you to do what you do online, and how it makes you feel. But yeah, someone said, I also think it's also because I think there's a lot of minors on the internet who don't know any better, and that's why it's important to like, at least in your realm, right, of people that you can influence, right? If you have like juniors like at work, or if you have like, if you're in school and you have like your underclassmen, or like if you have siblings who are younger, like you can kind of share your wisdom, right? Don't continue the cycle of hatred. Teach them to be better. I don't know. Like I don't know. I mean, this is kind of out of the scope of this part of the conversation. I think I have notes on it for later. So hopefully we can come back to that. But on the whole, for that specific topic, share your knowledge, share your wisdom, continue to cater that environment, that positive environment you want to see. But continuing on, I don't want to get too tangented. Sorry, otherwise I'm going to start mumbling. Like, I'm going to start Deku mumbling. Like, okay, but then this and that. For those who are new to the channel, I am not the most eloquent sometimes. I can be eloquent, but not necessarily all the time. I mumble a lot, like Deku, if I'm like thinking, because I'm an external processor, and sometimes when I get really, really focused, I start mumbling like Deku does, because it's like I have to process it somehow, and that usually comes across as an external processing, but it's like a lot that I have to process, so I start mumbling like Deku. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue on. Asking Rita to not be tangential is like asking a termite not to eat wood. I have to. So, in wrapping up this conversation of reevaluating your relationship on the internet, let's talk about ways that you can manage that, right? Like how you feel when you're using the internet and what drives you to be on there, right? So, first things first, consider limiting when you choose to be online. I think that's definitely the first way to do it. Like, give yourself a physical start-stop time for when you hop on. That's one way to do it, right? Another one, try to find positive motivators for you to be on the internet, right? Some people said, they love looking at art. So if you want to be inspired, you want to see beautiful things, maybe that's your reason for hopping onto Twitter and following a bunch of artists, musicians, things like that. Maybe there's a cause that, you want to be involved in. That's a really important, a positive cause. Then let me preface by saying that, like I mentioned earlier, like maybe if you like the environment, you can find volunteer opportunities and do like a park cleanup. That's a fun, positive way to be on social media. And then I guess the last main tip, and if you want to share some more for the Archangels in the chat, by all means. For me, I think this is the biggest thing that helps me maintain the positive relationship that I have with the internet is forging a lifeline in your day-to-day life, like work, friends, or family, who can pull you out of the rough waters when you need it, right? Like, to kind of help you understand that, like, there are people in your life that know who you are, like what it is that you're actually going through, have your best interest at heart, and could even just take you away from the drama and the hullabaloo online, right? Help take your mind off of it. Kind of show you that, like, there are actual, like, important, relevant things that are happening in real life that need your attention. That is true, though. I think Bio did bring up, like, finding good friends is hard. Finding trusted people is hard, and that, family maybe it can't always be your trusted group. Maybe you don't have the trusted group of friends, and or maybe you don't have that trusted work friends. And I guess I do speak from a place of privilege in being able to say that I do have, like, a strong social circle. But if there's anyone out there who maybe from experience of not having that sort of strong network, what have been some ways that you've been able to find that group? I think in the past, I think definitely, like, when I was younger, it was difficult for me to think of people that I would consider, like, confidants, right? People that I could trust. And it did take a while. I think I just started by trying to find people who have similar interests as me, and it was easier to kind of, as a relationship grew, right? Because you can't just expect random people that you meet all of a sudden to suddenly, be, your confidants. But over time, it's like we had the same interests, so I knew they would understand where I'm coming from, and then kind of as our friendship grew, like, oh, I know that they wouldn't judge me. Yeah. And again, it's a very difficult, and we can have maybe a separate conversation about building. I think we kind of did before, but yeah, learning to be a good judge of character is a skill that needs to be honed over time. Exactly. People change, and yeah. For most people after high school, it's hard to find friends. That is so true, Azuma, because it's like you have this kind of, on a tangent real quickly, you have like a structured environment where you're guaranteed to meet people in your age range who have similar goals as you, who have similar experience as you, and that was such a great way to meet people, friends, right? And once you move on past college and high school, all stuff like that, it's hard to, well, maybe you, like, in the workplace, but even then, like, workplace, it's like workplace is work. But I mean, so is school. But I don't know, I guess you could try to find and create those environments, like maybe find a volunteering group or a creative group, a special interest group, like, I don't know, cosplay. But this is funny enough, I met my two best friends through Genshin. There you go. Yeah. I met one of my best friends, and we're still best friends to this day. She's one of my closest confidants. we met because I think we were like in a social group together, but like we hadn't known each other, but we were like in a social circle group, and we were like because we were carpooling to like a social event we were gonna do as that big organization. And she and I were in the back of an Uber listening to Oron High School Host Club. Because the guy was like, you guys can listen to anything. We don't care. Like, I don't care. As your driver, like, I'm not here to judge. And we were looking at each other, and we both knew we liked anime. But we kind of had this joke. We were like, how fun, like, are we going to test him? Are we gonna actually put on anything that we want? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And so we put on the Oron High School Host Club opening. And no, the Uber driver was like, oh yeah, this is great. But we had a huge laugh about that, and like that's where our friendship started. And sorry, tangent, but you get the idea. try to find, spaces and environments where you'd find people with similar interests, and who knows, maybe you'll find your best friend. Oh my gosh. So we talked a little bit about the problems that we come across when we're using the internet, things like hate or doom scrolling. We talked about how we can create our boundaries, maybe with a block button, or just being mindful of our internet habits, thinking about how we consume social media or the internet, kind of forging that lifeline, things like that. But let's move on kind of towards the idea of what your impact is on other people, rather than with this conversation we just had about managing how you deal with other people's impact on you. Does that make sense? Now we're on keep the waters clean. We did rough waters, we did solutions, and now we're going to keep the waters clean. And welcome in for those who just popped in. Be sure to check the pin message if you have any questions. Also, Archangel check. How are we all doing? How does everyone feel? Is this a lot? Is this a lot of words? A lot to think about. But, again, the reason why I like to do stuff like this is because I feel like I learn a lot from you all, sharing your experiences. And I hope having this conversation as a starting point inspires you to have this conversation again with yourself, with your community, your loved ones, with your therapist, maybe, your community. Feeling good? A lot to think about? Oh yeah, tired? Oh, if you're tired, please do get some rest. It's very important. I'm a huge proponent of the sleep schedule. Okay, I just wanted to check it. And remember, if at any point you need to step away, whether it's you need to head to bed for the night or you just need to take a breather, by all means, do what you need to do. So now we're going to learn about our impact on other people. So here are three things you could ask yourself when interacting online. So the fun fact, I actually got this first piece of advice from Shogun. And it's evaluating what your current emotional state is. How do you feel right now? And I want to start off by saying having emotions is very normal. You shouldn't feel ashamed about feeling them, right? I think, what's that one saying where it's like you can't control how you feel something, but you can't control what you do about it? Or like the secondary thought, if that makes sense. Because you can't control how you were socialized and how you were brought up, right? And how you were, I'm not going to go into a whole conversation of nature versus nurture, but your feelings are going to feel. They're going to come up, and maybe sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I know why I feel that way. Or like, why do I feel that way? But what you can control is your actions, how your emotions turn into actions, right? So let's say you wrote something very emotionally charged. Before you hit that send button, these are some questions you could ask yourself, right? Am I in a good state of mind? Am I just really riled up right now? Like, do I just need to go cool down and I can think about it more clearly? Does what you've written really reflect your stance or your feelings on something? Or is it just a quick spur of the moment thing that you might regret not putting in more thought about? Exactly. It's very easy to send things you'll regret. I think in the spur of the moment, it may feel relieving to be able to get those emotions out, right? On a tweet or a comment or something. But does that reflect truly and fully, at least to your best extent, how you feel, right? Like, do you think you'd be able to express it more clearly later once you've thought about it? But yeah, just allow yourself to kind of let your feelings feel and step out of your emotions for a moment and view your actions from an observational viewpoint, right? Cool yourself down and put together your thoughts with a clearer mind, I guess. Because I definitely have those times where I'll see something and I'm like, oh, it makes me sad that this is happening. And as much as I want to be like, oh, blah, 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 I feel like maybe I could more clearly, and we'll talk a little bit later about perception and getting your point across. I think to myself, I think I can put together a more compelling statement with a clearer mind. Right. Number 2. So the first one was, what is your current emotional state, right? You want to be able to convey your thoughts clearly. And sometimes it's difficult to do that when you feel very emotionally charged. For me, journaling helps a lot to get those emotions out without, if they're not clear yet, it lets me kind of just dump everything and then I can kind of put together something clearer. Emotions are very hard, Bio. I agree. Gosh. QB says, I always try to remind myself to step back and re-examine things when things get heated to avoid making major mistakes. I agree. Number 2, how might other people perceive this? So that's the second point. The first one being, what is your current emotional state? So keep in mind, right? The internet is the great global connector, right? So you're going to be interacting with people from all across the world. And, while you can't know everything, right? You can't know every little thing about every single, it's important to be, it's important to be as open-minded and as learned as possible, because people with different cultures, experiences, and beliefs are going to be interacting with you on the internet, right? So understand that you might not be taken the way that you mean. There's high context cultures, low context cultures, and remember that what you might find funny or helpful might be offensive or hurtful to others. And that starts the conversation of what do I do if I accidentally offended someone and I genuinely didn't know, right? Then that's you start this conversation of taking it upon yourself to learn what you did wrong and be better and improve so that it doesn't happen again, right? And to make amends and apologize. But the crux of this point is the perception of your message might not be as you intended. The internet is a wild place, very exciting, very diverse place, right? Different backgrounds, different ages, countries, exactly. Different perspectives. Yeah. But it's important to have that sort of open. Oh my gosh, another tangent, another real talk. In this conversation that we're having, I think it's very important to be in this conversation about being open-minded and being empathetic. I think it's very important to be empathetic to other people's experiences and perspectives. But I think in trying to become more empathetic and become more inclusive on the internet, right? I think we've kind of lost a sense of empathy for maybe those who are having I guess I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is we've lost in an attempt to become more empathetic on the internet. I say we just in general, right? The internet in general. I think we've lost a sense of empathy for people who don't know everything or don't have that level of understanding, right? Because, I think it's very important to some degree, take it upon yourself to be aware of things that are happening, like be aware of history, be aware of the intersectionality of history that you are a part of, right? Because we're a global community, and it's important to stay involved, and it's important to be aware of important things. I'm losing my eloquence, I apologize, but I think that in trying to become more empathetic, right? It makes me happy to see that more people on the internet are, being mindful about different experiences and different cultures. But we've lost empathy for people who maybe have a difficult time trying to catch up to that. Am I making sense? I'm losing my eloquence, aren't I? Hello, Yola, welcome in! Being a compassionate person is very important. But I'm trying to see if I can find an example. I'm trying to think of an example. It's making sense. Don't worry, we understand. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to explain it a little bit more clearer, just in case there's some folks out there who maybe have a difficult time. I'm going to use my pollution example from earlier. I keep talking about recycling and stuff. But let's say, somebody says something like, oh, you can actually recycle this sort of material, when in actuality you can't, right? And maybe it's coming from I think you can recycle this. But let's say somebody who maybe knows a little bit more about recycling is like, actually no, you can't. And in trying to, this is a bad example, but I think there's this common trend where people are allowing people to make honest mistakes and grow and be better. Does that make sense? I think in trying to create a more inclusive and empathetic environment, we're losing empathy for making honest mistakes. Not my elegance, my eloquence is what I mean. Because I do understand the significance of choosing to be ignorant. I think choosing to be ignorant can very much hurt people. But if genuinely someone is like, that is actually an experience I haven't had before, and maybe that's born of an active choice to not learn about other experiences, and that's a whole other conversation. But I think obviously if you do not have the emotional bandwidth to guide people on this in this conversation, in this journey, definitely respect that. I think a lot of times people who exist in minority spaces find it to be very burdensome when they're constantly having to speak for their group or having to constantly educate people who aren't familiar with their experiences. I understand the validity of that, right? How heavy that can be. But I think there's also a lack of empathy for, I guess, informing people. Oh my gosh, am I being eloquent? Eloquence, oh my gosh. Now you have me saying elegant. But that's a whole other conversation. I think empathy. That's where I want to wrap this up before I tangent. But I don't know. I'm very passionate about that topic too. So maybe one day we'll talk about that once I've more clearly delineated everything that I wanted to talk about that. I'm really making sense. Okay, I'm glad. Okay. Absolute Link says, I think sometimes people ask questions in bad faith, and then people who can't tell the difference assume that's more common than it is. Yes, I understand. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate because obviously they're not wrong for trying to promote empathy or inclusiveness, but don't forget that people deserve as much due process and agency as you do. Exactly. Right. I think it's a very complex topic, and I'm actually very passionate about it. I'd love to talk more about it, but if you all want to hear a conversation about that, let me know, because I think there's complexity on both sides of, I guess, the sort of like not learned, but the one who is the side of ignorance. And I mean that with the intention of like the side that doesn't have information about something versus the side that does. And I think there's so much complexity on either side. And I think if we were just more empathetic to those complexities, I think it would resolve a lot of tension. It can be its own stream. Oh, it absolutely can. I don't know. I'm very passionate about it. Because I think a lot of times, like, no, I need to wrap this up. Otherwise, this is going to go on for another hour. I guess what I'm trying to say is, be number 2. How might others perceive this? Be empathetic. And that goes in either direction. That's all I'm gonna put. I really want to talk more about this, but I'm afraid that I'm gonna talk for a million years. And I also kind of want to do more research because I feel like I want to give an example, I guess, a clear example. Yeah, and I think I want to be able to speak, like, clearly. It never stopped you before. Wow. I'm excited now. I want to write this down because I really like this idea I have in my head, and I kind of want to bring it. But I want to finish up this topic. I do have to go in an hour, unfortunately, because I want to talk so much more about this. But I'm gonna wrap up this section about impact, and then we're gonna wrap up with some positive stuff, right? Yeah, I want to be able to give a more clear explanation. So, I want to kind of write an outline. I usually write outlines for stuff like this. So I have an outline for today. It's basically what I had for my express talk. But to kind of wrap up the impact, we talked about things that you could ask yourself when interacting online. What's your current emotional state and how it affects you? How might others perceive this? And the last one is this really the best way to get your point across? So here's a scenario. I'll give you all a quick scenario and then we can move on to the next topic. So like, let's say you find yourself in a very passionate conversation, defending something you care about very intensely. Like, I don't know, your favorite character, right? Like, so-and-so is the best character for this. Throwback to my Oshi Outrage debate game show. But anyway, in actual real life, situations, is being rude, aggressive, or insensitive really the best way to get someone to sympathize with you or to be on your side? Try to be sympathetic and think about effective ways to communicate your ideas clearly to other people. And I know it can be a lot to think about, even though they're just 3 topics, right? The 3 topics can like branch out into even more. But at the end of the day, just try your best and think to yourself, right? What mark do I want to leave on the world? So, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, oftentimes it's not like, a lot of the times trying to appeal to someone's, being sympathetic, appealing to their humanity, right? Trying to connect to them in that way can oftentimes be an effective way to get them to sympathize with you and understand where you're coming from. But that being said, I'm gonna kind of wrap up my section of the chatting stream with some positives, and then we can kind of wrap up the stream all together with maybe some takeaways or like extra little points that you all have on kind of the topic overall. But I feel like in talking about all of this stuff, a lot of people might just be like, at this point I should just like get off the internet. Like, what good could the internet have? But it's just a great gateway for self-exploration and community and opportunity even. And, it's not just me, but you all, of course, I'm sure. But like when I was younger, I feel like being on the internet let me learn about like the world around me. I gained a lot of technical skills. I learned about different people and cultures, and I became a weeb. Oh my gosh, if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't be an anime fan. Oh my gosh. Like, I think being on the internet helped develop the interests that are largely still defining what my hobbies are to this day. The internet gave us you, so it does have its positives. Well, the internet gave me the Archangel, so it does have its positives. Yes, I love anime. I love anime. I love video games. Gosh. And, as I kind of started to explore who I was, what I like, I was able to kind of like stay connected and reach out to people who were just like me, right? Find causes to volunteer for, stay connected with friends, even if it's a really old hand-me-down laptop that can barely run an MMORPG. I was able to, for at least 1 week, play with my friends on an MMORPG as their healer before it couldn't handle it anymore. My computer simply was just like, I've had enough. Gosh. But I can't complain about a hand-me-down computer, right? A hand-me-down laptop. But it was an easy way to stay connected with friends. And even to this day, I wouldn't be able to be a part of Prism Project if it weren't for the internet. If it weren't for that shady Instagram advertisement, I wouldn't be part of Prism Project. Isn't that crazy? We thank the internet for Rita. I thank the internet for you all. And I thank the internet for not just for me being able to experience you all, but for you all to be able to experience being a part of the Archangel community. I think, again, I've said this so many times, one of my greatest joys in being a streamer is getting to see the community form amongst you all, making friendships, connections, meeting each other in real life safely, of course, like the meetups and things like that. So there you have it. Yeah, the Instagram ad story. Long story short, for those who are new to Prison Project, this is I think a Gen 1, Gen 2 exclusive back when it was just Gen 1 and Gen 2 and Cap and Hakka-san. The way that we found out about Prison Project was a really sketchy Instagram ad that led to a very sketchy Google form. But then we all met Cap and we were like, wait, whoa, this is a serious thing. But fun little, diddly-doo. I was trying to think of a word. Thingamabob, maybe? Exactly, there wouldn't be a Prison Project without the internet. So I wouldn't have been able to find an amazing job that basically just changed my life trajectory. I have a super supportive network of friends / fellow creators. Yeah, and that's all thanks to the internet. So the internet doesn't have to be a big scary place. It really can be a beautiful environment of discovery and connection if you know how to navigate it properly. But that's all I had prepared in my outline. That kind of covers more or less everything I talked about in my express talk. I wanted to talk about so much, but I only had like 10 minutes to do my express talk. So we kind of took that 8-minute video that I made and we extended it out into like an hour and a half. Yeah. So let me know what your thoughts are. Any takeaways? And thank you for the punch. Thank you. Gosh. How was Luta? Luta was good. I mean, we each have our trying to get through the day-to-day, right? But we send each other like I don't know why, but we send each other like Instagram reels and like YouTube shorts and like I don't know why lately it's been a lot of like video game related stuff. I'd have to go check, but it's like I'll go to bed like sending Luto a bunch of like TikToks and stuff, and I'll go to bed, and like of course she's awake when I'm asleep. I wake up and I see all of her responses and TikToks and shorts that she sent back to me for me to respond to. Pretty funny. But anyway, thank you for the applause. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your trust in me and the community, for sharing, your experiences and your thoughts. But as we kind of wrap up for the day, what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? What are some, I guess, further questions that you have that you're going to take away and think about? Whether it's yourself, with a trusted adult, a therapist, your community. What are some things that you're going to take away? I'm curious. I'm so curious about you, boy. Want to keep it cool, but I know every time you move. Yeah, without the internet, I wouldn't be able to send funny videos to Luto. And I think lately I've been seeing a lot of like Valorant TikToks. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna send this to Ko. Oh my gosh. I think I saw a Valorant one today that I sent to Ko. I can't remember. Saying curious, that's one off the bingo card. Curious, I don't know why. I feel like ever since it's become like a common like song association for me, I feel like I've been hearing it more. Shiny says, certainly how and when I interact with the internet, especially right before bed and right after waking up, certainly can start you off on the wrong foot or end your day. So it's tough to sleep. Yeah, exactly. I think for me, my thing to actually like stick to that is physically putting my phone away, like somewhere else. And having a to-do list of things to do in the morning before, like if I like write down everything, because it's like I do things in the morning just from memory, but for some reason having like a to-do list with look at phone at the very end keeps me from, using my phone before I do everything else. I don't know why. It's just something that my brain does. I like lists. It's nice to have someone to talk to about this kind of stuff. I'm happy to hear that. And, if you feel like, you need further unpacking of... We should do an unpacking stream while we unpack. I find that having a professional, like, who actually knows what they're talking about, to help you dissect even further on a personal level is very helpful. Because I think there's definitely value in speaking with friends and trusted, like, adults and things like that about your experiences. But I find that if you have very specific things that you want to drill down and work on, I think having a unbiased figure, like a therapist in your life, who can really dive deep into the specifics of things and help you unpack and understand that is very helpful. But I'm glad that this conversation does help in that sort of first kind of way that I mentioned. Let's see. F says, the internet doesn't hold all the power, just need to be a bit more vigilant and curate my spaces, and I can reap far more good than bad from it. I'm happy to hear that. I agree. I think creating your boundaries is just an important way of, like you said, curating your space to a way that helps you reap benefits more than... What's the opposite of benefits? Unbenefits? Hold on. Antonym for... I know the word. It's on the tip of my tongue. Antonym for benefits. Detriments. Drawbacks. Let's see. And hello, Ren. Welcome in. Advent says, I guess I'm mainly going to take away how I view certain topics such as interacting and blocking. Ah, kind of like changing your mindset on them. That makes sense. Absolute Link says, I think my biggest takeaway is to start being conscious of what I'm scrolling and why. That relatable content, because it, again, like scrolling can be such a mindless thing that you find yourself doing it for like hours without realizing why. So I can relate to that one. Saying says, good technique. Noted. Oh, from an earlier thing I mentioned. I see. Demon Warrior says, for my positive, I've always had trouble sleeping, so I use audiobooks or podcasts to sleep to them. That's so good. Having your thing that isn't like endlessly scrolling through your phone is very beneficial. I think I told you all for a while, for me, it was, and I know this is kind of not the best solution because it's still a screen in front of my face, but I would play like one mission in Tears of the Kingdom. or I would do one shrine quest. Because scrolling, like, it doesn't actually take too much energy from me, and it's hard to find a stopping point, right? So I can't tire myself out really by scrolling, and it's hard to find a, stopping point. But when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom, it's like if I give myself, I can do 1 shrine, or 2 shrines, or 3 shrines, depending on how much time I have. And then by the end of it, it's like I've reached my goal, and I feel like tired, like I've put in work, and I see something kind of like as an output from that work, and I can feel like I've done something, and I'm tired, and I'm ready to go. Like, you know what I mean? I know it's not the perfect solution, but it's helping me. I think now I've actually moved away from it. Maybe it's because I finished the game, but I moved away from it, and now I just go like that. I like send a couple of messages before bed. With my phone in bed, but I send a couple of messages, and I get up and I put it away. Let's see. We need to Rita's podcast. I used to do solo episodes of Archangel Radio whenever I had a specific topic. So I used to have like, I guess, real talk episodes almost of Archangel Radio. But if you want to hear, like, if you want to have solo episodes of Archangel Radio again, I'd love to do that. I just need to think of a topic to talk about. But Archangel Radio for me is kind of just a way for me to get to know people more. And that's why I like to have people... I guess. I think the last time I did a solo Archangel Radio was I did it in a Vice Corner. So maybe we can do something like that. When was the last time you did ASMR? I feel I like doing like ASMR, soft speaking stuff, but I feel like I don't have the setup to do it properly. But I recently did like a storybook stream, and I want to do something like that. Like cozy, whatchamacallit, lullabies and storybook time and chatting. Just that overall, like, hush, hush kind of thing. What do you do now after Tears of the Kingdom ends? That is the question of the year, isn't it? I feel like there's a Tears of the Kingdom-sized hole in my heart. If I'm being honest. So, I don't know. What have I been doing? I will literally, like, scroll through Twitter, and as soon as I find, like, Tears of the Kingdom, like, art or like webcomic or like lore, I'll send it to like people that I know who play, or sometimes I'll send it to people who I know don't play, and I'm like, hi, sorry, I know you don't play Tears of the Kingdom, but I need to send this to somebody because I could cry about it because it's a beautiful artwork or something. And that is how I deal with the loss of Tears of the Kingdom. I still have a bunch of side quests, but I think I'm still in that phase of like, I'm still trying to, I guess, what's the word that I'm looking for? I'm trying to feel settled with the ending. That's not, I don't dislike the ending. I loved the ending, but I'm still just trying to sit through it and process. I know, it's a long time to process, right? But I feel like I have to kind of like cool down from a very intense, like for Omori, like when I finished Omori, I had to like feel my feelings and like go through all of the thoughts in my head, and then I'm like, okay, now I can, I don't know. See, the thing is with Omori, it's like I didn't have any. I guess after a certain point I could go back and play the different routes, but I'm not really like a route player. But if Omori was similar to Tears of the Kingdom, where I had side quests I could do after finishing, then after a certain amount of time, I would be able to go back and playing more. Yeah. But, like, something like that has a big ending that, like, really impacts me for a while. I have to, like, sit for, like, a week, and then I can go back and consume the media again. You know what I mean? Like that art you retweeted, Link, would you still love me if I was a worm? Okay, way back when we first found out about that, I tweeted, would you still love me if I was an ancient light dragon? And I think, but at that point, not as many people knew about it, like the reference, and a lot of people were really concerned, and I was like, oh no, I promise I'm not sad. I promise I'm not having sad girl hours. It was a reference, but it made me happy to see people be like, Rita, of course. It was sweet. It was very sweet. I was like, aw. Yeah, oh my gosh, maybe one of these days they'll make a post game for you know, the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom line of games. But I remember defeating Ganon in Breath of the Wild and just immediately being teleported back to Hyrule Castle. Like, wait, where's Happy Hyrule? And then all I got was a star. But I'm used to it now, I think. And because I think I responded with, "Hey, what's wrong with being an ancient light dragon?" Nothing wrong. Well, there. I'm sure there is, but you know. Anyway. Oh my gosh. Fun fact, worm is the German spelling for worm. I've seen it a lot on, like, Magic the Gathering cards. So that's how I found out about it being, like, a German spelling. Because I asked my friend, I was like, why is it worm? Like, is it, like, a magic thing? But no, I found out that it is a German spelling. Mm-hmm. Hope we get a Hyrule Warriors type game with Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, please. I don't know. I liked Age of Calamity, and I know a lot of people didn't like it because of, like, the whole, like, time. Well, when does Zelda not deal with time? But a lot of people were upset with, like, the story of Age of Calamity, but I liked it. I just like being able to see, I don't know, characters that I enjoy again. But I think for me, the part that made me cry in Age of Calamity, sorry, spoiler alert, but the part that made me cry in Age of Calamity was with anything that had to do with Sidon and Mipha. It just made me cry because it was like, no, they just want to be happy. But, like, I think at the very end when they all said goodbye, that was devastating. Oh my gosh. Because it was a happy goodbye, but still. Gosh. Yeah. We couldn't even catch our breath in what, Age of Calamity or Tears of the Kingdom? My goodness. But anyway, for if anyone's popping in, we did wrap up our conversation for the day, so I guess I'll go ahead and put a little note so that you all know we wrapped up our conversation. Let's do super chat reading. Let me put that as the theme now, because now we've wrapped up. Plus, let's see. Thanks for listening. Maybe I'll just do plus chatting. Because I'm not quite ready to go just yet. I do need some time to get food before my meeting, but... I think a lot of the hate of Age of Calamity got was because Nintendo advertises a proper prequel to Breath of the Wild when it really wasn't. True. Yeah. But I think a lot of people also just dislike the aspect of, like, time travel. I think was also another huge source of, like, soreness from the community as well. But I loved it. I don't know. I just like being able to see my favorite characters again. Everyone working together and stuff like that. And Johnny, thank you for the reminder. Yeah. Next stream is Splatoon, of course. I'm sure you're extra excited about that one. I'm actually going to be playing tonight. A little bit. So, just like in my own free time. If I have extra time, I might open up the Archangeling pool tonight. I feel like I should tweet about it. I will let you all know. Maybe I'll tweet about it if I open up the Archangeling pool. Yeah. I will let you know, but I do want to play some Splatoon before this weekend. Again, I have to re-up my skills. Because I really only play Splatoon around Splatfest time, or like whenever my friends are like, hey, I want to play Splatoon. I'll hop on. It's a great, like conversation vehicle. Like, sometimes I'll play Minecraft to, like, talk to people. Like Non or Iku the other day. Like, Minecraft was our vehicle of conversation. Let's see. Da-da-dum. Opening up my super chat reader. Stefan, thank you so much for celebrating your 6 months as Idol Coach. Good morning from Japan, Rita. Well, good morning. Glad I can catch a bit of your stream before I head out for the day. I hope you have a good day, Stefan, and thank you again for celebrating your membership anniversary. Red Birdie, welcome backstage as Idol Coach, and thank you for the 5 gifted. Very much appreciated. And Cypher, welcome backstage as Idol Manager. Hope you have lots of fun backstage. Octa Steve, thank you so much for celebrating your 18 months as Idol Coach. Octa Steve says, social media and its consequences has been a disaster for the human race. My goodness. There are a lot of bad parts to the internet and social media, but there's also a lot of positives. And I think that can be said for a lot of things. So I've been mostly lurking, and it's been good to hear you again. No worries! If you're lurking, I hope you're enjoying yourself, whether you're working, or you're studying, or you're just relaxing. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. VOD gang too, hello! Hi, hope you've enjoyed the VOD. Thank you for all that you do. Shady says, hey VOD gang, exactly. Kimi2, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. Very much appreciated that. Very much appreciate that. And Cubey, thank you so much for the Akadono. Oh my gosh. Cubey says, thank you so much for the stream. I had been struggling to come to terms with some events that happened and what I had to do in response. Your words helped me better accept what happened and be more at peace with it. I'm really happy to hear that, Cubey. I think we talked about kind of, your message kind of reminds me about that piece of the conversation that we had about why do I have to create, why do I have to create the space for myself? Why do I have to use the block button? Like, is it something that I'm doing? Like, is it a me problem? Like, do people just want, like, what is it that I'm doing that make people want to hate me? But sometimes people will be cruel because of attention seeking or power seeking. And while that doesn't excuse what they do, I think that understanding is reassuring. And I'm glad that you feel more at peace. I'm happy to hear that, Cube. And I hope things get better. Wishing you the best of luck, Cube. And we're all rooting for you. And Sang, thank you so much for the super chat. Sang asks, do we have any karaoke or comfy stream this month? I thought this was pretty cozy. I thought this was pretty comfy. Really miss your positive affirmation ASMR. I want to do ASMR, but I feel like I just don't have. If I this is a kind of a personal thing, because a lot of people have been like, I really love like your ASMR that you did, even though you don't have like a setup. But I think it's more of like a personal thing. Like, I want to be able to do like high quality ASMR. Does that make sense? Like, I think there's definitely value in showing you all like growth, and I've definitely done practice stuff and like shown you all like my improvements and my work in progresses. But I think this specifically, I don't know if it's like a work in progress thing, because it's more of like I want to be able to do something with quality. Does that make sense? Because I think like having a good quality like sound is separate from like being like improving my craft. Does that make sense? So, and maybe it's unrealistic, but it's just like a level of quality I have for myself, I guess. I know, it's kind of weird, but maybe I'll do another like cozy real talk session, maybe some cozy story time, but things like that. Shiny says, thank you for being you. Thank you. And I've mentioned before already, so sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I've been doing lots of recordings, whether it's for TikTok or for secret projects. So just, as every artist does, just try to exercise caution and taking preventative measures. So at least for the past few weeks while I've been recording and stuff, I've just been extra careful. But I don't know, I may or may not have karaoke's come up. You just gotta wait and see. You gotta sit and wait for the surprise. I may or may not have karaoke's planned. Wink wonk, wink wonk. And you all know me. I planned stuff out in like months in advance. So I'll give you all a little sneak preview on how I planned this month. So I knew I was gonna be recording a lot this month. So I actually, like a month in advance, I like planned out when I was gonna do karaoke's and stuff. So I already know, I've known for a while now when my karaoke's are gonna come up. But you all are just gonna have to wait for the surprise. So I think you all will be pleasantly surprised. Let's put it that way. Oh my gosh. Lorlock, thank you so much for celebrating 3 months as Idol Coach. Not quite sure what to say, so I'll just leave it empty. But thank you so much for, celebrating your membership anniversary, even if you don't know what to say. I appreciate you celebrating your membership anniversary. That makes me happy. I hope you've been enjoying your time as Idol Coach. Rita flexing her planning skills. I'm not even kidding. I'm so excited about the side project that I've been talking about. It's gonna take a while to fully realize it and implement it and go through my mental change management process, but I love it. I'm so excited about it. Wow. It's so cool. And I think what I want to do is I really want to either make a video or kind of have some sort of panel or something to talk about it, because I think it's really beneficial, because it's not only beneficial in my day-to-day work, what do I need to do, what's in progress, what have I not started, what do I need to do, but it can also scale really well to planning on a macro level. What are my goals for the year, and how are the individual things that I'm doing in the day-to-day helping that big goal. It's really cool. So I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna go on a tangent. I'm gonna dive a little bit into what I mean. I recently got to sit into, not recently, but oh my gosh, Sake, thank you so much for the Akasupa. Oh my gosh. Monthly pension for retired hero of Hyrule. Well, we'll have to see what happens in 5-10 years. Maybe we'll have to come back up in arms again for Hyrule. And if that does come to pass, I hope that we can all be together again if we have to save Hyrule again. But thank you for the monthly pension for the retired hero of Hyrule. Meridan, thank you so much for celebrating 18 months as Idol Coach. Great discussions today. I wish more schools/organizations had discussions like this, especially for the up-and-coming generations. I agree. I wish conversations like this were more commonplace, more accessible, I think. Accessibility for conversations like this. Not just conversations like this, but also mental health care would be awesome as well. But I'm glad that I could create a space like this for you all. So thank you for celebrating your membership anniversary. And I hope you've been having lots of fun as Idol Coach. Justin, thank you for that. I'll come back and read the dodo beforehand, but I just thought it was funny. Justin, thank you for the super chat that says monthly pension after taxes for Hero of Hyrule. Can't forget about those pesky taxes, right? Gotta remember those calculations. And Chunky, thank you so much for the dono. Howdy, Rita. I hope you're doing all right. I am. Thank you for asking. Pardon if you don't see me much often, as I've been busy with personal work that causes me to miss out on streams. And no worries at all, Chunky, as long as you're taking care of yourself and, making sure everything that is important in, that's critical, that's happening in your life, important for you is happening and going well. I wish you the best. Currently working on an old promise that I must fulfill. Promises are important, Chunky, so I appreciate that. You must wait and see. You must wait and see, precious Rita. It's a secret. Oh, wow. Well, good luck with all that you're doing, and looking forward to the secret. Oh my gosh. So, what I was saying, right, tangentially about my project management thing. So I got to sit in a while ago. I just haven't gotten the chance to I wrote notes on it, and I've been meaning to write notes that I could share with other people, because my notes are very chicken scratch. I need to create a readable, understandable version of those notes that I could share with the other Prism agents. But I sat in on this workshop, and it was a content strategy workshop. It was really cool, and they just talked about they had a content creator come in and talk about how they think about content strategy, and they had this idea called the 3H content strategy, and it's hero, hub, and help content. And you separate your content into these three things. Hero content being the tentpole sort of big event sort of content that you put a lot of effort in but doesn't happen very often. Your hub content, which is your regularly scheduled programming, you don't want to put too much effort into it because it's not effort, but you want to be careful with how you allocate your energy because it's stuff that happens all the time and is repetitive. and it comes out a lot. And then help content, which is like evergreen content that is like stuff that people will search up. So like, ask me anything about being a VTuber, or here's what it's like here's a day of my life as a VTuber, or, explaining lore summaries and stuff like that. And basically everything that I do on my channel can be divided into those three things. And it's really great to be able to see like all of your content be sorted into those things, because then you can understand like, am I allocating my energy properly? Are there certain branches of my content that I'm forgetting about? It's really interesting. And then the way that I have it all organized, I can view it in that very like macro scale, but then I can also view things on a day-to-day and a weekly basis. It sounds like project management mini games. Wait till you all see the views of my database, because I have a database with all of like my tasks and projects and goals and things like that, and it's all connected. So before we choose our raid target for the day, I would kind of try to explain it a little bit better. So okay, let me go to my database. So how I have it divided up, let me go to the channel overview view. And I really want to do a panel on this, because I would love to share this with like other VTubers. It's gonna be a super helpful thing, I think, for just the way that I organize my brain, and I think it'd be really helpful for other people. So it's divided into 3 goals or content types, I guess. So it's help content, hub content, and hero content. I just mentioned that. And then underneath that is like content type. So it's a goal and then content type. So under hero content, it's like event streams, cover songs, etc. So, and then underneath event stream, or so let's do. I'll talk about a project that I've already talked about publicly. Under hero content, that's the goal. We have one of the content types, which is cover songs, and under cover songs, we have all of the projects, and one of the projects is Feel Special. Oh, one of them, meaning there's more? Oh my gosh. So, and then under Feel Special, I have my tasks. Or my tasks. And that's the smallest delineation of card. And it's really cool because you can view everything just from the top down. You can view everything by project, or you can view everything by the week. And it's really cool because it all just lives in one database, and depending on what meeting you have or what you're doing in the day, you can view a different sort. You can look at your database a different way. So cool. I would love to do another panel on this. But anyway, you all are just gonna have to wait for the Rita's event and project management, panel. If you want to see it, tell your local convention organizers that you want to hear Rita Kamishiro's project management panel. I love this sort of stuff, like organizing stuff like this, so I would love to share my knowledge. And Overhulk, thank you so much for the gifted membership, and NA, thank you so much for the dono. Thank you for being willing to open this sort of conversation. Of course! And again, the reason why I do all of this sort of stuff is because it's what helped me when I was kind of struggling to understand why I was going through things or understand my emotions. Just having people there who had similar experiences, who are willing to talk things out with me, helped me understand things better and demystify this idea of breaking down how I feel and why I feel a certain way and what I can do about it. It made me feel more comfortable about going to therapy and things like that. So I'm glad I could help. NA says, this topic really hit home. I'm in a minority that gets a lot of hate online, and sometimes I do need the reminder to stop paying so much attention to the vitriol. And I'm happy to hear that you're able to have that sort of ability to step away, and it's very important, right? Because I think we talked about this as one of the topics. Like, there's so many things to care about on the internet, being connected in a global sense, right? And sometimes you just gotta step away if you're able. And I guess in some ways also, I guess being able to step away is also a privilege in and of itself. Because I feel like in some instances, it's like you're right smack dab in the middle of it. In a physical sense, even sometimes too. So I'm glad that you're able to do so, and I'm happy this conversation opened up a lot of thinking for you all. And I hope that it offered you relief and guidance. Cheers to you and Shiny. Thank you, NA. Oh my gosh, I hit my microphone. Thank you, NA. I really appreciate that. And best of luck to you. I wish you clear waters, not rough waters, in the future. And continue to express that, boundary, and continue to take care of yourself. So, yes, good. Happy to hear that, Annie. And again, Umberhawk, thank you for the gifted. And Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Love what you do, love what you are, love who you is. Thank you, Joe, I appreciate that. Shiny's first dono shout out? Really? This is your first dono shout out? That's crazy. We need more Shiny shout outs in general. Shiny shout out. That's a fun one. I feel like that's what I would call, like, whenever Shiny does the, like, hey, friendly hour reminder to get some water or stretch your legs, or if you haven't subscribed yet. In my head, that's the Shiny shout out, but I feel like also, like, when we, like, 07 Shiny for, like, bonking with love, of course. We bonk with love in the Archangel community. But I feel like that's also a Shiny shout out. Yeah, like, whenever we salute Shiny, I feel like that's also a Shiny shout out. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and choose a raid target for today, because I'm getting kind of thirsty because I talked too much. And gosh, there's a big Valorant collab. Have I raided Mako yet before? I feel like I've raided Mako once. I feel like since I've only raided Mako once, I'm gonna go ahead and raid Mako again. Demon Warrior, thank you so much for the Shiny shout out. A great mod we have. That's the second one, Shiny. That's the second one. Alex John, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for the stream. It's a good one for reflection. I'm happy to hear that. Happy to help guide the conversation. A third one from Blazer Breaker. Another Shiny shout out. Best mod. I agree. I think the Archangels are in such good hands. Right? We're gonna go ahead and raid into this big Valorant collab. Let's go ahead and do that. Gosh, let's see. Add Mako. Set. There we go. Thanks for the stream. You're welcome for this. Thank you so much for stopping by. And I know, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but again, I want to thank you all for being very respectful and open-minded and patient, and for trusting me with your time and with your experiences. And I'm just grateful to have such a wonderful community of Archangels. And Alex John, thank you for another Shiny shout out. We love Shiny. Oh my gosh. Thank you for all of your hard work, Shiny. And a huge shout out to today's bread heist leaders. Let me get that out. I turned it off to, like, declutter the screen. So huge shout out to today's bread heist. What should we do? Talkers? Real talkers? Demon Warrior, Alex John, NA, Sang, and Cube. Thank you so very much. And thank you to everyone who tuned in, whether you're chatting or lurking. You're part of VOD Gang. Whatever the case, I appreciate you all in whatever ways you are able to support or show up and be yourself. So, as always, I have the idol to give you the wings to fly, Cyber Angel, Rita Kamishiro, at your service. Bye! Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. It's a short. I think it's a TikTok or a YouTube short. So, Shiny, we might need you for this one. But have you seen that TikTok or whatever, a short form video, where someone is, like, doing an unboxing or something, and he's like, I just got the new OLED Switch, and he goes, move, and he, like, moves it away? and there's a Splatoon theme switch behind. And he starts speaking in like Inkling. It's a really specific video. So, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm going crazy. It's like, he's like, hey guys, I just got the new OLED switch. Move. And then he hits it, and then there's a Splatoon switch. And he goes, anyway, and he starts speaking in like Splatoon language. Do you know what I mean? I need to find this one. He does it so well. I don't know, because I can do animalese. I can talk like an Animal Crossing villager. Like when it goes... Like, I can do that. But Omeko's ending? Oh, gosh. Goodness. Let's see. Like, ending? Is... You think maybe Ami is continuing? Let me double check. But does anyone know the video that I'm talking about? I need to find it. Okay, no, it looks like Ami's still playing. So we'll go ahead and... Yeah, everyone's doing, like, super chat for the Valorant collab. We'll go ahead and rate it to Ami. Yeah, looks like it. Okay, we're switching. Okay, I need to find... Okay, let me find it. Let me find it so I don't look crazy. And let me also switch over to... I'll have another opportunity to rate Mako again. Okay, save. Okay, let me go find it. I promise, I'm not crazy.